Imagine the greatest footballer of his generation. A man who didn't just play the game, he reinvented it. A man whose ideas are still alive in every top club on earth today. Pep Guardiola worships him. Lionel Messi learned from his system. The world's most dominant clubs play football the way he imagined it. And yet, he never won the World Cup. Not once. He came within 90 minutes of glory. And then, history looked away. This is the story of Johan Cruyff, the man who changed football forever and never got the one medal the world said he deserved. Amsterdam, 1947. A city still recovering from World War II. Streets empty, people rebuilding, and somewhere in a neighborhood called Bettendorp, a boy was born who would one day make the entire world watch football differently. Johan Cruyff grew up near Ajax's stadium. Not just near it, he breathed it. As a child, he would press his face against the fence and watch the players train. When other kids went home, Cruyff stayed. He didn't just want to play football, he wanted to understand it. His father died when Cruyff was just 12 years old. It was a defining moment. His mother began working at Ajax as a cleaner to support the family, and that connection to the club became everything. Ajax took Cruyff in, coached him, shaped him. But there was a problem. Cruyff wasn't physically imposing. He was thin, not especially fast, not particularly strong. Several coaches doubted whether he had the body to play professional football. But Cruyff had something they couldn't measure. He saw the game in a way nobody else could. While other players saw where the ball was, Cruyff always saw where it needed to be. By 17, he was in Ajax's first team. By 19, he was the best player in the Netherlands, and Europe was about to take notice. The late 1960s, European football had a shape. Defensive, rigid. Positions were fixed. Defenders defended. Midfielders connected. Forwards attacked. Everyone stayed in their lane. Then came Rinus Michels. Ajax's new coach had an idea that seemed almost impossible. What if positions didn't matter? What if every player could play everywhere? What if a defender could suddenly become an attacker? And a forward could drop deep and defend? What if the entire team moved as one living, breathing organism? He called it total football. And at the center of it all stood Johan Cruyff. Someone who could receive the ball anywhere on the pitch and make the right decision instantly. Cruyff was that player. Between 1971 and 1973, Ajax won 3 consecutive European Cups, 3 in a row. No Dutch club had ever done it. Cruyff was named European Footballer of the Year. Once, then again, then a third time. The world had never seen a player quite like this. In 1973, he moved to Barcelona, a club in a city that had been suppressed under Franco's dictatorship. When Cruyff arrived, he didn't just bring his football, he brought hope. Barcelona hadn't beaten Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in many years. In his first Clásico, Barcelona won 5-0. The city went mad. Cruyff wasn't just a footballer anymore. He was a symbol. And in 1974, the biggest stage of all was waiting. West Germany, 1974. The World Cup. Brazil were the favorites. They had Rivellino, Jairzinho, Paulo Cesar. West Germany were the hosts. They had Beckenbauer, Müller, Breitner. Most people expected the final to be between those two. Nobody was really talking about the Netherlands. But then, the tournament started, and people stopped talking about Brazil and Germany, because the Dutch were doing something nobody had ever seen before. Their first match, they beat Uruguay, then Bulgaria, then Argentina. In the second group stage, it got serious. East Germany, beaten. Brazil, beaten. Yes, Brazil, the reigning champions, beaten by the Netherlands. Cruyff scored, created, controlled. He seemed to exist in a different dimension from everyone else on the pitch. During the tournament, he produced one of the most famous moments in football history. In a match against Sweden, Cruyff received the ball near the penalty area. A defender closed him down. What happened next took less than a second. Cruyff faked to play the ball one way, then dragged it behind his standing leg and turned completely around. The defender was left standing, frozen, confused. It became known as the Cruyff turn. 50 years later, it is still taught in football academies around the world. By the time the Netherlands reached the final, something extraordinary had happened. Journalists were already writing that the best team had already been decided. And in the final, they would face West Germany, at home, in Munich. 2nd July, 1974. The Olympic Stadium in Munich. Over 75,000 people inside. Millions more watching around the world. The Netherlands kicked off, and something incredible happened. They kept the ball. 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 passes. They moved through midfield, into the German half. The ball reached Cruyff. He took it forward, into the penalty area. A defender grabbed him. Penalty. Before Germany had even touched the ball in their own stadium, the Netherlands had a penalty. Johan Cruyff stepped up. He smashed it into the net. 1-0, 60 seconds into the World Cup final. The Dutch hadn't even given Germany a touch of the ball. The stadium went quiet. The Netherlands fans went wild. And then, something shifted. The Netherlands, 1-0 up, began to play like they had already won. They showed off. They kept the ball. They almost taunted Germany. And Germany stayed calm. They worked their way back into the match. A foul inside the Dutch penalty area. Penalty to Germany. Paul Breitner converted. 1-1. And then, just before halftime, Gerd Müller, the most dangerous striker in the world. He received the ball with his back to goal. Turned, shot. 2-1 Germany. Halftime. The dressing rooms, and something had broken. The second half began. The Netherlands attacked. Cruyff ran, linked play, searched for a way through. But Germany defended with everything they had. The Dutch had chance after chance. Johnny Rep hit the post. Cruyff was blocked. Rensenbrink's cross found no one. The clock ticked. 80 minutes, 85 minutes, 90 minutes. The final whistle blew. West Germany 2 to Netherlands 1. The greatest team many people had ever seen had lost the World Cup final. Cruyff stood in the center of the pitch, silver medal around his neck, eyes empty. He had changed football forever, and he had nothing to show for it. 4 years passed. Argentina, 1978, another World Cup. Cruyff was still only 31 years old, still playing at the highest level, and the Netherlands were qualifying again. Everyone expected him to go. He was the captain, the leader, the symbol. But something was different. Cruyff was silent about the tournament. No announcements, no confirmation. And then quietly, without ceremony, he withdrew. He wasn't going to Argentina. At first, the world assumed it was political. Argentina in 1978 was ruled by a brutal military dictatorship. People were being disappeared. Human rights organizations were calling for a boycott. And many people assumed Cruyff had taken a moral stand. For years, That was the story. Cruyff himself let people believe it. He didn't correct it. He didn't explain. He simply stayed home. And the real reason remained a secret for almost 3 decades. Then, in 2008, Cruyff finally told the truth. Months before the 1978 World Cup, while Cruyff was living in Barcelona with his family, armed men broke into his home. They tied him up. They threatened his wife and children. It was a kidnapping attempt, a traumatic, terrifying invasion of everything he held closest. The attackers eventually left without taking anyone. But the damage was done. Cruyff's sense of safety was shattered. He looked at his wife, his children, and he made a decision. Football could wait, family could not. He told almost no one. He protected his family's privacy. He let the world create its own narrative. And so, without a word of explanation, the greatest footballer of his generation sat out the World Cup. Ironically, the Netherlands reached the final again in 1978 without Cruyff, and they lost again. Argentina won on home soil. Cruyff watched from home, and his final chance at the World Cup disappeared. Johan Cruyff retired as a player in 1984. No World Cup medal, no winner's trophy from the biggest tournament on earth. By the standard football uses to measure greatness, he fell short. But then, something happened. He became a manager, first at Ajax, then at Barcelona. And as a manager, he didn't just win trophies, he built something that would outlast everything. At Barcelona, he created a team called Dream Team. They won 4 consecutive La Liga titles. In 1992, they won the European Cup. But more importantly than the trophies, he built an academy, La Masia, a production line designed around his philosophy. Every child who entered learned one thing first. Think before you receive the ball. Play simply. Move constantly. Use space. From that academy came Xavi, Iniesta, and one small boy from Rosario, Argentina, who would move to Spain, Lionel Messi. When Pep Guardiola took over Barcelona in 2008, he built the most dominant club team in modern football history. Tiki-taka, positional play, high pressing, total football for the modern era. Where did he learn it? From Cruyff. Guardiola has said publicly, repeatedly, that Cruyff was his greatest influence, not just as a manager, as a philosopher of football. Today, look at how Manchester City play, how Liverpool press, how every top academy teaches positional awareness. The fingerprints of Johan Cruyff are everywhere, in the DNA of every club that plays attractive, intelligent, attacking football. He didn't just play the game, he wrote the game. Johan Cruyff died in March 2016. Lung cancer. He was 68 years old. The football world stopped. Flags were lowered in Barcelona, in Amsterdam, in stadiums across Europe. Pep Guardiola cried in public. Messi said he had lost a father figure to the game. And the tributes poured in from every corner of football for a man who never won the World Cup. There is a question at the heart of this story. What does it mean to win? Thousands of players have lifted the World Cup. They have stood on podiums with gold medals and confetti falling around them. They have celebrated and cried and hugged each other, and most of them, the world has forgotten. Johan Cruyff never lifted it, never stood on that podium, never had that moment. And yet, every time a fullback overlaps and joins an attack, every time a centre-back carries the ball forward under pressure, every time a press traps an opponent in their own half, every time a young player At La Masia is told, think before you touch the ball. That is Johan Cruyff. Still playing, still winning, still changing the game. The World Cup has a champion every 4 years. Football's future was shaped only once, and the man who shaped it never needed a trophy to prove it. So maybe the question was never, why didn't Johan Cruyff win the World Cup? Maybe the real question is, does the World Cup even deserve to have Johan Cruyff's name on it? Because history didn't forget him. History learned from him. And that is the greatest victory of all. He never won the World Cup. But Johan Cruyff won something bigger. He won football itself.